Have you ever heard of the mini-zombie apocalypse in the 1940s Soviet Union? Yes, that's right, a mini-zombie apocalypse. Keep watching the video until the end to discover what happened and how it all went down. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to Snooze Insider and click on the bell icon to get notified for our latest videos. Information on everything we've talked about will be in the description down below. It all started in the 1940s in the Soviet Union. The military was trying to chemically engineer a kind of stimulant that would keep their soldiers awake longer, which would come in handy when fighting a war. During that time, a Soviet researcher developed a stimulant that would supposedly keep a person awake for 15 days. The only thing left is to test this experimental airborne stimulant on actual human subjects. During the war in the Soviet era, prisoners of war were plentiful. Let's just say it wasn't too difficult to forcefully make these prisoners partake in this experiment. Perfect for the Soviet researchers to live out their mad scientist fantasy. The testing area was a sealed metal chamber where the experimental stimulant would be pumped into through a series of ducts and vents. Running water, dry food, and toilets were also provided. Scientists were able to monitor the progress of their experiment with microphones and cameras. Now, 5 prisoners were selected at random, and the stage was set. The prisoners were promised their freedom if they could remain awake for the entirety of the experiment. How sweet freedom felt at the cost of a small price, a 15-day vacation in a confined space. Nothing to worry about, right? Well, let's find out. For the first few days, things seemed to be fine. The subjects communicated with one another and spoke to the researchers, who kept monitoring them from outside the chamber. All the scientists seemed to be quite pleased with the results thus far. One scientist even started giving high fives to everyone in the room. However, not long after, things started to take a turn for the worst. On the 5th day, the subjects started to show signs of stress, paranoia, and psychosis, talking to themselves and claiming to see things that are not really there. They stopped talking to one another and whispered on the microphone, telling stories about the other inmates. On the 9th day, all hell broke loose. 2 of the inmates started to run around the chamber, screaming so hard that they physically tore their vocal cords. After hours of intense screaming, the only sounds that came out of these men's mouths were mere squeals. Suddenly, the screaming stopped, and there was an eerie silence. The scientists feared the worst and announced their decision to open the chamber. One scientist said on the microphone, "We are going to open the chamber and let in fresh air. Lay down on the floor and do not move. Failure to comply will be shot." Freedom at last, right? Only the unexpected happens. The men in the chamber was begging for more gas and wanted to stay inside forever. Have they been hooked onto this mysterious gas? Thought one of the scientists. They ended up leaving the chamber closed to continue monitoring the situation. For the next couple of days, they continued to hear screams and yells from inside the chamber. And on the 15th day, they decided enough is enough. They had to see for themselves what was going on. Once they opened up those big metal doors, they would wish they never did, because what they saw was a horrific scene. The prisoners were in an awful state. One of the inmates lay dead in the corner of the room. The rest of them had their flesh torn off and abdomens ripped open. Internal organs were sprawled out on the floor like modern art. Some of the wounds were self-inflicted, and it seemed like they have been eating their own flesh. What self-loathing zombie-style sorcery was this? The scientists ordered for the subjects to be taken out of the chamber. But surprisingly, they all refused and even fought back. They kept yelling, "More gas! More gas!" Military personnel came to get the inmates out of the chamber, and in their struggles, another one of the inmates' heart stopped beating. One scientist tried to get them anesthetized, but the inmates kept resisting. And when asked why, they gave the same reason: "I must remain awake." After the struggle, the remaining 3 subjects were restrained separately, but their wounds were prepped to be treated in the same room. The inmates refused to be anesthetized and wanted to be treated while they were awake. However, one inmate died as soon as his eyes were shut, which led the remaining 2 into a frenzy. Then, all of a sudden, A loud bang. One of the scientists had shot a subject dead and was about to shoot the last one. Before doing that, he asked the last remaining inmate who he was, to which the inmate identified himself as the evil that resided in every human mind that was kept in check by sleep. Completely mortified by the inmate's answer, he shot the last inmate dead before covering up any trace of the experiment. That was the end. A crazy experiment gone wrong, leading to several deceased. This horrific story went down in history as one of the scariest internet stories, if not the scariest. What do you think? Is this crazy Russian sleep experiment story fact or fiction? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up so we can continue making them. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and remember to click on the bell notification. Share this with a friend if you think they may need a little wake-up call. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Until then, sleep well.